The best of Money Matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin Jeong. It's not just any national day this year. It's Singapore's 60th birthday. And if the flood of SG60 vouchers and events are anything to go by, this year's parade was always going to be something special. More people had the chance to see this year's National Day parade up close from the Padang to Marina Bay. The parade featured its largest moving stage to date, and the show extended to the waters of Marina Bay for the first time. NDP 2025's theme this year is a phrase that any true blue Singaporean would be familiar with, Majulah Singapura, the name of our very own national anthem. The phrase, which means onward Singapore in Malay, is a definitely fitting one for our Diamond Jubilee. So now that the fireworks have faded and the red and white outfits are packed away, how did the big show stack up? Well, joining us today to unpack the highs, the surprises, and the behind-the-scenes stories from this year's parade is Angelica Ang, reporter of the Straits Times. Hi, Angelica. Welcome to the show.
Hi, hello. Thank you for having me.
So, Angelica, what was the energy like this year, especially with it being SG60?
Yeah, no, I think the energy was definitely very palpable. I was at the Padang on August 9 and could tell that everyone was very excited to be there on National Day itself. Because, as you know, the tickets don't really come by easy. So everybody was decked out in red and white and had their sun tags out, their flags out, and their tattoos, the temporary tattoos on their faces and arms. It was just very nice.
So how did this year's NDP compare to the past several years, and did it live up to expectations?
Yeah, I think the most unique thing about this year's parade was that celebrations extended from the Padang to Marina Bay. So I think there were 27,000 spectators at Padang, but around 200,000 at the Bay. So even the performance itself incorporated elements at both venues, and they integrated it quite seamlessly, which was very interesting to see. So, for example, I think both the naval divers and the Red Lions, they did their respective jumps, but the naval divers landed in the waters of Marina Bay, and the Red Lions, they landed at the Padang. Yeah, and I think they live streamed the different elements, so spectators at both sides could see. Yeah, so that was really super cool. And I think there was a duet between Benjamin King and Rahimah Rahim. And Benjamin King was singing from the Bay and Rahimah Rahim was singing from the Padang. Yeah, it was very, very cool to see.
Given that this was celebrating Singapore's Big 6-0, how did it feel to be physically present for a milestone like this rather than watching it on screen like the most of us?
Yeah, no, I think it was definitely a big privilege and honor to be there in person. The energy and excitement, I think, was very, very palpable. And I think some of these feelings and moments cannot fully be captured on screen. So it was very cool to be there. Yeah, and I think for me personally, it's been quite a while since I went for a live NDP parade. I think the last one I went for was my NE show in P5, which was the early 2010s. Yeah, so I think now being back as an adult and also as a young reporter, it was very interesting to rewatch the show as an adult and I guess have a deeper layer of understanding of the artistry and the behind the scenes and also how the different elements have been coming together to form the performance on the day.
Did you notice anything unique about the way people were showing their patriotism this year? Flags, outfits, or chants?
People were asked to write their wishes as individuals. I think the play cards are actually double-sided. So one side and then the other side was their wishes for Singapore. So that play card was actually also incorporated into I think the last performance in Act 4, where I think students for 4 MOE schools, they were also told to write wishes on both sides, and then they raised it up, I think, as Kit Chan sang home. So I think it was very nice that there was a participative element for the audience that they could join in as well and write their wishes for Singapore. And yeah, as you mentioned, it spawned quite a few memes on social media from what people wrote on their placards. So yeah, and I think something that was new for this year was also that some of the national flags were stackable. So I'm not sure if you've seen it on social media as well, but some people had stacked many, many, many flags and they were waving it around. And I think on August 9 and the rehearsals that we went for, we also saw people doing that. It's pretty interesting.
Have you had the chance to speak to any first-time performers or attendees? I mean, what were they hoping to experience on that day?
Yes, I was lucky enough to cover the behind the scenes for the performance segment. So because of that, I spoke with quite a few young students who were participating in the parade for the first time. Yeah, so I remember there was an interesting anecdote was when I was talking to this JC student who I think was J1. Yeah, but because The academic pressure at JC can be a lot, but these rehearsals were like every Saturday, and they spent like long, long hours training at the Padang. So he was actually telling me that he and his fellow performers, they just like brought their homework to the Padang, and they were doing it during the breaks in between performances. And if they had any questions, they started asking like each other and also the NSS. Yeah. But I think mostly they were just very excited to be there. I think one of the other performers I spoke with, she was like a 13-year-old and one of the youngest performers. Yeah, she's very excited.
This year's parade spanned both the Padang and Marina Bay. So, Angelica, how huge was this year's turnout? Did it manage to break previous records?
I'm not sure about the breaking records, but I know there were like 27,000 at the Padang and around 200,000 at the Bay. So I'd say that's definitely like a much bigger number. And then I think most years traditionally when people could only watch live at the Padang and see like the fireworks at the Bay.
With road closures and enhanced security on that day, did spectators encounter any issues with crowd control issues or disruptions?
Mostly from what we could see at the Padang, we left at the same time as the spectators, but the crowd management was quite good. I think they stationed like road marshals at every point of like the Padang and even leading up to like outside and inside of the MRT stations. So even though it was like a very crowded area, like people were walking in a very organized fashion, like no pushing. Yeah, I think the crowd management was quite okay, and I wouldn't say that there was very big disruption to crowd. Yeah.
Well, was there a segment that drew strong reactions? Any crowd favorites or standout performances, whether it were the fireworks, the parachuters, or music?
I think a memorable one was probably Act 4 when Kit Chan took the stage to sing Home. I think it's definitely an iconic classic NDP song that many, many Singaporeans know and remember from their childhood days. So that definitely drew a lot of like wows and like sing-alongs from the crowd. And I think after that segment, it segued into like a medley of old classic NDP songs. So like Where I Belong and We Are Singapore. And at that moment, I think we were invited to stand up and sing along. So many people in the crowd also stood up and sang. Yeah, it was I think at that moment, it also led into the fireworks and the Majula moment where people took the pledge and the national anthem. So I think people's feelings of like excitement and patriotism sort of peaked at that moment.
Overall, did you get the sense that this year's NDP was trying to appeal to a younger generation?
I think I wouldn't say it was specifically trying to appeal to the younger generation, but I think it had touch points at different points of the parade that any Singaporean from all walks of life and like all ages can probably relate to. Yeah.
Now, we can't talk about NDP without highlighting the iconic NDP Fun Pack filled with all kinds of goodies. What did people think of the pack? Anything inside that stood out?
I think something that people really liked was the designs of the Fun Pack, because I think there were 7 different designs that were each designed by different people with disabilities. So I think when my friends and I got the Fun Packs, we were sort of like comparing designs and looking at the different designs and appreciating them. So I think that was something that people really appreciated as well. And also there was, I think, there were red and white bucket hats as well as like a hand fan, which was very useful because I think the first half of the parade, it was still a little bit warm. So I think many people took out those items from their bag and started fanning themselves, using it to shelter themselves from the sun.
Now, as we look forward to 2026, what are you hoping to see at next year's NDP parade?
I think it's very fascinating to me how, like, every year the parade directors and creative directors and performers have been able to continuously reinvent the wheel. So as we go into, like, Singapore's 61st birthday, I'm quite excited to see what they come up with next. When I was doing the behind-the-scenes interview, I think the show segment commander mentioned that they start prepping for next year's show on 10 August. So it's like the day after each year's NDP parade ends. So yeah, I guess I'm excited and looking forward to next year's show and see what they come up with. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Angelica, for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
That was Angelica Ang, reporter of the Straits Times. Other than what Angelica has told us today, if there's something else that stood out to you during NDP over the weekend, let us know. Text us at 88550893 and let's keep that Singaporean spirit and the celebrations going. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.